we ready? Okay, let's do it.
Is everyone ready? Okay, good morning. Thank you for coming and listening to us. My name is Bennett.
I'm Sara.
Sara Hockett. There's Andrew Nevins and Daniel Harbour, who are co-writers and co-presenters, hopefully, at some point. So we're here to talk about a bipartite compositional sign in the Magdalenian Upper Paleolithic. Now, just to give you a context, you were talking about the Iron Age and the Bronze Age before. This is a period about 16,000 to 10,000 years ago. So this is a long time ago, before the Bronze Age, before the Neolithic. Now, this has been spoken about a bit before by a woman called Genevieve von Patzinger in 2016. She published a book in which she had a series of signs that were in common use in the European Upper Paleolithic. So these are the signs that we're talking about. You see they're not pictures, they are a series of graphic units. Now, humans at that time had a fish-based diet and were migratory. They were like the animals. They weren't sedentary, staying in one cave. They followed the animals as they rotated around the landscape. It was a high-functioning society, high-functioning in terms of tool use, tool making, in terms of these signs that they created, in terms of sharing knowledge, which is one of the critical things. Sophisticated use of tools and the exchange. There were very many exchange systems. There was a big expansion in the population because there were variability of autumnal reindeer and fish stores sustaining them through the cold winters. In the late autumn, they had a food source which consisted of large migratory shoals of salmon and large migratory herds of reindeer, which they could harvest in approximately November and get them through the winter. We assume spoken language is present in there, but we will never know. Now, we presuppose when approaching Paleolithic registers of this sort, which are covered by Roy, Burhan, and Marchand, that one, all the marks are intentional. Those are intentional marks, they're not random. What we see is not always art, and this will become relevant when we start seeing all the beautiful pictures. But they have other functions, and it is not always episodic, but may represent generalized experience. In other words, this is beyond the random putting down of signs that are also there. Now, we're going to talk very specifically about this image here. If I can just run through this. This is from Hockett, cave in the north side of the French Pyrenees, and it is the autumn migration scene I was talking about. There are the reindeer migrating south, going north, going into the mountain valleys. And here are the salmon going north. And we can tell that they're spawning salmon because they're leaping in the shallow water. And that salmon there has the hooked lower jaw, which is typical of the male salmon in mating season. It's a fighting tool, basically. It's like the big antelopes on some animals. And this is what we're going to talk about, those two signs up there. Now, in the context of writing systems, glimpses of the proto-literate line are tested in the Upper Paleolithic. The lozenge, which is the outer diamond there, is commonly seen on Magdalenian, 14,000 years ago, cave images and artifacts. It has the widely accepted meaning of fish. In fact, it looks like the proto-Semitic for fish, if you know that sign. The pipe symbol, which is within it, that vertical line, is similarly common, but does not yet have an agreed upon denotation, which is something we're going to get to. We argue that lozenge does in fact denote fish. Pipe, the sign within, denotes unborn, young, and the fusion of those two signs into one unit is semantically compositional and means fish spawning site, which is what we have here.
So in a conference about graphical linguistics, a good question is, how does this relate to any linguistic system that we recognize? And here we see that proto-writing systems, to be able to call something a writing system, you need at least these three things of intentionality, conventionality, and graphicality. These three are necessary, but you also need more. Because both dance notation and heraldry all fit these three categories, but we don't think of these as writing systems. And our notion of proto-writing is programmatic, meaning it's not decided based on one single sign. It's a hypothesis based on a collection of the signs as a whole. And it centers on the idea of plausible extrapolability. So even though it may not have fully developed into a full writing system, the question of could it have possibly developed into a writing system, that's what we focus on. And we argue that yes, we see traces of full writing systems in these symbols that we're going to talk about. So specifically in the lozenge sign, so just the diamond sign, we see conventionalized schematization, just means everyone draws one thing and they all agree on what that one thing means. And we also see metonymy, which means they could have drawn the full image, but they chose to only draw the outline. And in the pipe symbol by itself, so just a single line, we see an example of loss of pictographic significance, which means it originally had a connection between the symbol and the meaning, but that has since been lost. And so we see that with pipe originally could have meant something in the mammals of umbilical cord related to pregnancy, but then we also see this pipe in animals that don't have umbilical cords, like fish and seals and birds. And the fused lozenge plus pipe sign, we argue, is an example of compositional semantics when the meaning of the whole is composed of the meaning of the parts. And at a time with probable high linguistic density, maybe a non-phonetic Lisp-like or plain Indian sign language system was needed. And so we created, in order to first show support that this lozenge sign has the agreed upon meaning, we created this exhaustive database of 127 cave artifacts featuring the symbol. You see the range of how the symbol appeared. And we coded this database based on variables such as geographical features of the cave where we found it out, if it was near a river, if that river was upstream or downstream, if there was presence of other fishing-related artifacts like harpoons, or presence of other imagery related to spawning. So that's like what we saw in the previous image with that male, obviously male fish during spawning season co-occurring with that fused sign. And we found that the lozenge was found to occur much closer to upper region. Well, they all occurred near river systems in general, and it found that the lozenge occurred in the higher reaches near the headwaters of these river systems. And also very much co-occurred with the presence of harpoon imagery, which is the primary resource of how they hunted and for these fish for food. So here's a snapshot of what that database looks like. Again, this was very exhaustive. We found probably every single instance of, well, I say we, Ben found every single instance of lozenge in these cave artifacts, and we coded them based on the geographical features of the cave that it was found at and the presence of other imagery.
Right, so here is a map showing where the lozenge line was found. This is very specific to the lozenge line, so step back from this map in a moment and show you other areas. Now you'll notice that the lozenge line is always found on rivers, and it's often found, this is the glacial sheet here. So you see the lozenge line is at the very, very limit of the river. This is where the river is often half a meter deep, something like that, which is where the fish need to lay their eggs so they don't wash away in the greater stream areas. And you see also that they're all flowing from these big rivers here, leading up to the estuary, which is the main migratory route into central France and the Pyrenees. And then you have another migratory route, which is the Dour River there. And again, you see the caves, the lozenge lines aren't downstream, with the exception of that one, which is on a little stream off the river, but they're up here at the very, very height. Similarly, that's true of the Dordogne there, where the lozenge signs are found at the headwaters, at the extreme, there again, at the edge of the glacier. So if we come on to the next image, this is Spain, which we've seen the lost the top of it.
So we could just go on this.
So this is all of Spain. All of Spain at this time is inhabited. There are caves everywhere. You see a list of some of them here. But the lozenge signs are only in one particular area, which is the northern Cantabrian coast, where the rivers flow into the Atlantic, and the Atlantic is the salmon river and the sea trout river. These rivers here, which drain into the Med, into the South Atlantic, don't have lozenge signs.
I've lost control. There we go. So then we created another database full of images and cave artifacts featuring the pipe symbol in relative animal outlines. And we found here that across the analysis, we found that this pipe symbol is all the images presented were adult female animals with no obviously male anatomical features, and many were visibly pregnant or had their young next to them in the image, like we see in this image with the young. And then we coded this similarly to the other database based on the bodily location and other descriptors of this pipe symbol. And here's a screenshot of that corpus. This was also meant to be exhaustive. We found almost every single instance of this pipe in relative ML images. And for the analysis of the symbol, we found that it really was occurring in the rump or the belly of all of these different animal species we looked at. And we hypothesized that this pipe is a symbol for unborn young.
Okay, there's a possible other interpretation of pipe that stands for spear or wounding tool. Here we have two pictures of wounded animals or dying animals. And you notice the bowed head, you notice the buckled knees, and you also notice the lack of pipe. So what we're saying is that these people could draw animals, fantastically drawing animals, can draw wounded animals. And the animals that we've seen before were in great health, they were in full health. So these wounded animal indicators were not found to significantly co-occur with pipe. Now here are male animals. We had to investigate the male animals. So we compared our corpus with another corpus of 275 cave images and artifacts featuring animals with obvious male anatomy. Now the contrapositive support, if pipe implies female, then not female implies no pipe. And we have 275 images of males with no pipe. Indeed, male indicators and pipe were found to be mutually exclusive signs in the corpus. Now here we have a female and a male together. Here we have a female, she has a swollen belly, swollen rump, with a pipe sign within a rump. Here we have a male, no signs, which is typical, and it's clearly a male animal. So we have no pipe with him.
And this is within the same cave. So it shows that they're being really intentional when they're including pipe versus including male anatomical features. And then we created we then looked at when the fuse sign was occurring in our lozenge database. So when is the fuse sign occurring? And if pipe denotes unborn young and lozenge denotes fish, then we're arguing that the fused lozenge plus pipe has the composite meaning fish with unborn young, or the interpretive meaning of fish spawning ground. And we found that the fused lozenge plus pipe was found to systematically occur at the higher reaches, the upstream or the headwaters, than lozenge by itself. And here's a map of where we find that fused lozenge sign. We see that it's really in the headwaters in both the France and Spain systems. And we find that these clusters were geographically corresponding to the actual spawning sites for the fish during this era. And it would be a very helpful survival tool to mark where you're going to get your primary resource of food during this era. So it has a survival advantage as well of the fuse sign.
Okay, so in conclusion, we find plausible precursors of the writing mindset long before the Bronze Age, when full writing systems were first developed. The denotation of lozenge as fish has been supported by the corpus data. Pipe was found to occur systematically in the belly or rump without any other obvious semantic contribution, anatomical contribution, or artistic purpose. It is hypothesized to denote unborn young. Fused lozenge and pipe was analyzed in comparison to solitary lozenge and was found to occur at higher altitudes, closer to upstream headwaters. And the quantified analysis supports the compositional interpretation of the fuse sign as indicating fish spawning site.
Thank you. And here's
two questions. Yes, nothing.
Sorry. Yeah, for the lozenge, it's pretty clear to me that if you see that somebody can say this is not otherwise it's not, but for the pipe symbol, it's just a symbol stove. So what's the kind of relation between what's the pipe symbol and what's just maybe a state of the head, slip of the hand, or part of another piece of that, or something like that.
Okay, that's a very good question. And can you get to the buildings?
Yeah.
So you can get this.
this one. Yeah. So it's a great question, and that was why we wanted to approach it through a quantification lens. And that's why we created we did an analysis of all the locations, and we coded based on, okay, could it be part of the animal outline itself? Could it just be, what is the length of it? Is it really occurring all the time when it means this is like this diagonal bisecting through the belly? And we found that we had a significant part that were in the belly, and also that the same length of the same location and that bisecting imagery. So we can make an argument just based on the co-occurrence of all these factors, but it is a good question of like how accurate is, and maybe they're just accidental. But from the sheer amount of examples that we've had in the analysis itself, we've argued through the statistical realm that it's very probable that it exists.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.